Greetings, salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Mailbag. No, this is not AMC Movie Talk. This is AMC Mailbag. Now, as most of you know who watch the show, on AMC Movie Talk, we have a segment called Mailbag where we take, about 3 questions a day to address on air on the show. However, we get hundreds of questions from you guys a day, so we decided to start a new show called AMC Mailbag, and all we do on this show is take your questions. It's a lot more laid back. It's a lot more informal. It's just very casual. I'm just sitting here at my desk. And today, joining me for this show, I've got a couple of people joining me. First of all, she is the associate editor of movie news over at AMC Movie News. She's Miss Amy Rose Eisenbach. Amy Rose, thanks for being here.
Hi, guys. Welcome to my apartment. Hey-o.
And also joining us today, she is one of the hosts over at AMC Movie Talk. She is Miss Clark Wolf. Clark, how you doing?
Hi, John. I'm doing good. Very happy to be here.
And we are very happy to have you here as well. So let's get started with this. The first question for us today comes from John from Cincinnati, who writes, I'm a huge fan of the show, and I look forward to watching it every night when I get off work. My question today is, what have you heard about Prometheus 2? As far as I know, Ridley Scott and Damon Lindelof seem to be promoting it lately, and news of casting has surfaced. Did you like Prometheus, and what do you hope for in the sequel if it happens? Personally, as a huge fan of Aliens franchise, it met my expectations, and I hope to see more of the Aliens universe unveiled. So, Amy Rose, let's start with you. What did you think of Prometheus, and what have you heard about the sequel up to this point?
I was greatly disappointed. It was definitely on my most anticipated films list. Ridley Scott is amazing. Aliens, Blade Runner. He is clearly one of the kings and really have set this sci-fi universe in motion for film. I mean, he's been such a visionary filmmaker. But it really disappointed me. And all the marketing materials and everything leading up to the release I thought were great. And I'm a big Lost fan, so Damon Lindelof, I thought he was going to be a good collaborator with Ridley. But there are just so many plot holes, and I'm not a believer in a film that you should have to read a backstory to understand what's going on, and that was the case. They really took a lot of liberties and assumed that you should know, so it really disappointed me. Did I think it was a colossal failure? No. It was visually gorgeous, absolutely beautiful, and that's Ridley, and but the characters, I really didn't care about any of their motivations, and it was a big disappointment to me. Now, Prometheus 2, I definitely heard that Lindelof originally wasn't going to partner up with him, and I think that's gone back and forth. I have not read an update in a while, to be honest, so I'm not really sure where that stands. I think a lot of people do, place the blame on Lindelof, but there's a lot of pieces to a puzzle of filmmaking. There's a lot of components, so it's not just this at fault or this at fault. The film itself was gorgeous, as I stated, and Ridley Scott is great, but I would be okay if Lindelof did not take the reins on this one and write, and maybe Scott had a different partner in writing the screenplay. I would be okay with that personally.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, Lindelof is he's off. He's not going to be participating.
That's the last I heard.
But Clark, what about you? What did you think of the original Prometheus, and would you want to see a sequel?
Yes. Okay. So John from Cincinnati, thank you, because I'm Clark from Atlanta, and me too. I love Prometheus, and I am so in the minority on this one. There was such a backlash against Prometheus, and for me, I dug it. I really dug it from start to finish, and it's actually been on HBO a lot lately, so I've been watching it a lot. And every time, I love the philosophical questions that the film poses, questions about life and what makes someone human and what makes something human and all of those things. So I dug it. The one thing I will say is that what I mean by that is I'm a big fan of the Alien franchise, but for me, I'll always take Alien over Aliens. That's just my personal preference. I enjoyed Aliens and what James Cameron brought to the franchise. I even liked a lot of the darkness and the really screwy stuff going on in Fincher's movie. And we won't talk about Resurrection, but but I really like what Ridley Scott brings to this universe. So if they go forward with Prometheus 2, which I hope that they do, to, I want Ridley Scott to direct it. I don't want him just on in like a producing capability.
So Clark, Clark, I'm one of those people who really, I'd say, the more I've watched it 3 times, the more I dislike it. I was disappointed at
Agreed.
first. I understood that they asked a lot of philosophical questions, but I almost felt like going into it, I wanted them to ask these questions and then explore the questions. But instead they just say, to me, it's just like the movie started with, I wonder where we come from. And then it's just kind of left there, kind of dangling, and then there's all kind of weird alien logic and why were the engineers drawing sketches on cave walls about how to get to their secret military installation 20,000 years ago. It was just one of those things where I was like, I just, for me, there was just too many logic flaws in it to get my head around. And I might be okay with seeing a sequel, but Lindelof, as far as I know, is off of the project. And I know a lot of people who are a lot smarter than me who really liked it as well. So, all right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question comes to us from Richard K., who writes, "Hi, Mr. Campia. I think you and your team are awesome." Well, thank you very much, Richard.
Whoop, whoop.
Well, here's my question. Why not make an A-Team movie with the original cast? Because the first movie with Liam Neeson was poor, and it in no way even touched the quality of the TV series. I know George Peppard, who played Hannibal, died, but why not keep Dirk Benedict, Dwight Schultz, and Mr. T, and just replace Hannibal? I think this would be good for the A-Team fans, and if this did happen, who would you cast for Hannibal? Well, first of all, I got to tell you, I'm one of the guys who, guess what? I liked it.
It was fun.
I liked the first A-Team movie. Was it as good as I wanted it to be? No. Was it as good as I was hoping it would be? No, but it was certainly good enough that it didn't fall for me into that disappointing zone. I thought the casting was inspired. I loved Liam Neeson as Hannibal. I loved Bradley Cooper as Face. And what's the guy's name from District 9 again?
Oh God.
I couldn't tell you.
I can't tell you right now.
Murdoch, and now I'm drawing a blank. I'll have to look it up. But I loved him. I loved, Rampage Jackson as Mr. T. I thought it worked really well. As far as doing another movie with the original cast, Dirk Benedict is, in about 18 months, is going to be 70. Dwight Schultz is 66 right now, I believe. Mr. T is way up there. He's not pitying any fools anymore. His fool pitying days are over. And
he is for life.
And let's not forget, Hannibal was supposed to be about 15 years older than them. So if you're going to do the original and cast a guy who's 15 years older than them, now you're talking about getting a guy who's like 83 to play Hannibal. And they go on one last mission.
Will play Hannibal.
I don't see it. Look, Clark, am I missing something? Is there value here to be had in doing another A-Team movie with the original cast?
Well, I think that it's lovely that Richard K. loves the series so much and wants to see the original cast back in action. I think that's wonderful. But no, I don't think you're missing anything. I actually enjoyed the A-Team movie for what it was myself. I could think at best you'd maybe get cameos. Like if they made another movie, you throw the original cast in there.
Which they did in the original film. They did cameo most of them. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Yeah. So it's been a while since I've seen it, but aside from that, no, I don't think that you're going to put the geriatric A-Team in a big studio feature.
What about you, Amy Rose?
It could start in a nursing home, and then the real adventure happens. No, I think they're too old for it. And I love the nostalgia, and I love where your head's at. But, yeah, I don't think it would work. And I think considering the material, the cast was good. It was a fun time. It was ridiculous, but fun, And Bradley Cooper's face is always great. And come on, Liam Neeson, when is he not the best? Like, in every role he's in, he's just a badass. So I thought it was a fun time for sure. Maybe it wasn't to your expectations because, hate to break it to you, most of the originals set the groundwork for just being great, and it's really hard to, once the bar is raised so high, to tackle that subject matter and please everyone. But for the most part, it was a fun ride, and I wasn't that disappointed by it.
Yeah, I actually quite enjoyed it. Like I said, it wasn't as good as I was hoping it would be, but good enough that I liked it, and I wish they would do another one, but I know at this point that is pretty much a foregone conclusion that is never going to happen.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the third question. And the third question comes to us from Todd Phillips, who I do not believe is the same Todd Phillips who directed The Hangover.
Hangover?
My question is, at the moment, Marvel is averaging 2 films a year. But by the time the Avengers 2 comes out, there could be as many as 15 characters already in the mix. This is only going to expand as we get into Phase 3 with Ant-Man, Doctor Strange, Black Panther. Do you think with so many possible solo films that the studio might increase production rate and start releasing 3 or even 4 films a year? Very interesting question, actually, Todd. Amy Rose, what do you think? Could we see Marvel start to ramp out 3, 4, or 5 films a year?
I'd be hesitant. I mean, it's a question of what I'd like to see and what I think they could do. What you just completely laid out the groundwork, especially from, Feige. We've heard that they have a lot on their slate, and my goodness, are we all excited about it. But the thing that makes Marvel so great and Disney so great at this is that they are taking their time with these films to really stack the cast and develop the characters and line up the good directors, and they're really making these films quality, and I don't want quality to diminish because of quantity. So maybe 3 is logical, but when you're getting to 4, I mean, so much goes into these productions. They're not a small production. There's so much going into it. So I rather them keep churning out quality films than try to throw more on their slate just to get more dollars and please us fans. So 3 I think is okay, but more than that I'd be worried that something else would be, missing because of it.
Yeah, I think what I think a lot of people miss here is that I don't think the reason Marvel right now doesn't do 3 or 4 films a year is because they just don't have enough characters to do it.
No.
I mean, they clearly do. But, making a motion picture is a huge undertaking. I mean, it is a monumental task of the most unbelievable portions. So you're talking about huge resources, huge manpower, huge creative resources that goes into making a film. And when you're talking about a film like this, you're talking about hundreds and thousands of people, and coordinating all of that is just a nightmare. And to do 2 a year, I think is impressive. To do 2 a year is very, very impressive. But doing 3 or 4, I just can't see any company being able to do that and keep a good, proper handle on it with the way things are going. And remember, while they're shooting those 3 or 4 that year, they're already in the planning processes for the next 3 or 4 that are supposed to be out the next year. It just seems like a little bit too much. Clark, do you see something here that we're missing? Can Marvel go up and start producing that number of films?
Here's the thing. I don't care if Marvel can do it. I don't want them to do it. I want everybody to come back to a time when the trailer, you're in the movie theater and it's dark and you hear Heath Ledger as the Joker's voice over the first teaser for The Dark Knight. Do you remember how excited you were? Because I know for me, I was just floored. And it was because I had to wait years to get the first taste of this epic movie that I wanted to see. And I am a genre and action and fantasy nerd to the core, and I love Hollywood blockbusters, but I'm not going to lie to you, I am getting a bit fatigued from all this stuff that is constantly coming out all the time. And like Amy Rose said, I mean, Marvel's quality of film, I believe, is just so strong. The directors they choose and hire, it makes sense. It's not just, oh, let's give it to that guy because, they really take care with who they're putting in their films and having helm their films. And I want that to stay consistent. I agree with Amy Rose, that quality over quantity. But I want to be excited for these movies. I don't want to just be going, oh, another Avengers movie, or oh, a Black Panther movie, or oh, blah, blah, blah. So I don't want Marvel to do that, but that's my thing.
Yeah, it's almost like, it's kind of crazy. Like, we have this summer right now where there is so much going on. We've got a Wolverine film. We've got a Superman film. We've got, all these different things. And it's almost like having them confined to the summer movie season is really cool because it hits you all at once, and then you get to take a breather for a few months before the real, the crazy madness starts again. So, yeah, but once again, I just don't think I just think it's important to understand that the reason they're not doing 3 and 4 films a year is not because they don't have the characters to do it. There are other things to take into consideration, like resources, manpower, and like Clark is pointing out, pacing. So let's move on to the next question.
Yeah.
The next one comes to us from Kim Lee. And Kim Lee writes, Hi, John and the AMC Super Friends. Love the show, and I have been a long-time listener since your days at the movie blog. Well, thanks, Kim. My question is that I've heard you say many times that there are no bankable stars anymore. I completely agree and truly believe that it's about brand now than stars that sells movies. With a shift away from the star power, does this mean that it would give much more opportunity for no-name talented actors to land that breakout role much more, for example, like in the Marvel movies? Thanks a lot, Kim. The way I see it is that it used to be that, hey, who's the hot star right now? 10 years ago, Will Smith. Put Will Smith in an action movie, boom, you're guaranteed it'll at least get $100 million. Those days, and I think that also used to be true of like Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger and Bruce Willis, and Julia Roberts even at one point was a very bankable star. But the day is gone. Now I feel, though, that there's almost a balancing act. Stars now aren't there to be bankable. It almost feels like to me that a movie now almost needs a star just to be the film to be credible. So while just having Bruce Willis in a new movie coming out doesn't mean $80 million worth of people are going to go out and see it, what it does mean, though, I think, is when you have that trailer on, it makes sure people won't ignore the trailer if Bruce Willis's name is there. At least now they won't ignore the trailer. Now it feels like a legitimate movie that has a bunch of legitimacy to it. This is credible. I can go see this if I want because it's a quote-unquote real movie. Now, I'm not saying that's the way people should think. I just think that's the way they do think. So you still have to be careful, I think, doing movies with, like, say, a whole bunch of no-names. I don't know that works because then you don't have that, is this credible? If you don't have anybody in there that the public recognizes, is it even credible now? I think you got to have those stars there still just to maintain that legitimacy, even though it doesn't guarantee big box office. Amy Rose, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that the game has changed. I mean, it really has. You know, a lot of people were shocked about the Will Smith flop because, first of all, it was a bait and switch. It wasn't really a Will Smith movie to begin with, but people are like, oh, Will Smith has a big pull. And I definitely think, you know, yes, it's franchise. Yes, it's content and directors and all of that, but it's everything as a whole. It's the whole puzzle together. It's not just one element that's going to pull it together. But when you really look at the Marvel universe, I mean, Chris Hemsworth before Thor wasn't a huge name. Even DC, Man of Steel, Henry Cavill, have you heard of him before that? Not many people had. So they are still taking risks, but there's obviously still work that they've done where they got these gigs. But, you know, Thor made Chris Hemsworth. Sure, he made Cabin in the Woods and all these other films after the fact. Well, Cabin was a whole other story. But for the most part, you know, they have taken. But Marvel is notorious for paying less because of the return and the stardom that these actors get. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. was a different case, but that kind of revitalized his career again. So they did take a risk on him as well. So I do think with these huge franchises, they can get, you know, maybe lesser known actors. Chris Evans wasn't a lesser known actor. He's really had a pretty large body of work before playing Captain America. But for the most part, they can get away with maybe actors that you've heard of, but that aren't huge celebrities because of the property, because the diehard fans are there. So it changed. Quentin Tarantino film, on the other hand, that's a name that still holds a lot of power. Sure, there's a lot of amazing cast of characters that he always attracts, but the diehard Tarantino fans like myself, I'm going to see a Tarantino fan because of the content he produces is so original and amazing. Spielberg also has that pull. There's a lot of amazing directors that still have that, but I think stars hold that much less than directors these days.
See, I got to disagree with you on that. I don't think people care about the directors, which is really unfortunate. Like we had this
Tarantino?
Yeah, even Tarantino. There's this great story that we have around the AMC office that we share about. Going back to Prometheus, we had an event at our AMC theater in downtown Disney in Anaheim, California. We have a theater there right connected to Disneyland. And we had this great event where Ridley Scott, one of the most celebrated directors of the past 50 years, was going to be at our AMC Disney to premiere the very first Prometheus trailer at our AMC, and we invited people come, and there's going to be a Q&A with Ridley Scott and Damon Lindelof was going to be there as well, and we didn't even halfway fill that theater.
That's crazy.
Not even halfway. We had to go out and get people from downtown Disney. Just come on in. Just come on in. Come on in. And that was with Ridley Scott. But I guarantee you, if we had Michael Fassbender in there, or if we had one of the other cast members from Prometheus in there, it probably would have filled up. So, I mean, there's this really weird balance.
It's the whole.
Well, yeah, like in our circles of people who are, we're plugged into the online movie world and we're plugged into film fans. To us, you mentioned directors and it's, but to the average movie-going audience, I don't think they care nearly as much as we think sometimes. I mean, I could be wrong. Clark, how do you see this?
Well, two things. First of all, I don't know if Disney is Ridley Scott's fan base necessarily, so that might have been part of it. But I think that what you guys are getting at is kind of what Kim was talking about with the person who asked the question, the brand. Tarantino isn't just a director. Quentin Tarantino's a brand.
Exactly.
The same way Wes Craven is a brand, and the same way that Alien is a brand.
Right.
So for me, and I actually, when I read this question, I thought of Prometheus as well. You know, aside from Charlize Theron, who is a star, you know, using quote fingers or even not using quote fingers, you know, the people leading Prometheus, Michael Fassbender, Noomi Rapace, Idris Elba, those are not before you have this major tentpole blockbuster movie that is Prometheus. These are not names that people regular movie-going audiences necessarily recognized yet.
Fassbender was.
I don't know. I wasn't as, I mean, I knew him because I know like Shame and I know that kind of stuff. But I guess the point I'm making is that I think it was cool that these big tentpole movies are attracting the best actors and not necessarily just going for a name, a big name. Just throw Tom Cruise in there because it's Tom Cruise, and okay, and you go, well, yeah, but that doesn't make any sense. So for me, I'm just hoping that this trend of, you know, or this idea that there's no such thing as a star anymore, or however you want to call it or phrase it, I hope that just in a wishful thinking world leads to the idea that the best person for the role gets the part and maybe does break a big celebrity.
And the best content wins.
Yes.
That's what I want to win.
All right, let's move on to the next question. Question number, what is this, 5 or 6? Question number 5.
Flying on through. Woo!
Comes from Ryan Permisson, who writes, greetings and salutations, everybody. I really like the show, and it's the best podcast on YouTube. Well, thank you, Ryan. My question is for John and the panel. Last year, I heard that a movie based on Carmen Sandiego was in the works, with Jennifer Lopez set to produce and possibly star. However, I have not heard anything since. Do you have any information on this project? Well, Ryan, as a matter of fact, I do have some information on this project. Back in the 90s, they actually tried to get a Carmen Sandiego movie made, and Sandra Bullock was attached to star.
Perfect.
Oh, my dreams.
Clarky Poo.
Why didn't that movie happen, John?
I know. And then that one fell apart. And then they had, I think it was like 2 years ago, they had Jennifer Lopez lined up. She was going to star in it, and she was going to be one of the producers on the film, but very quickly that fell apart. So as far as I know, there is nothing in the works. But Carmen Sandiego, I think, is one of those properties, one of those brands, if you will, that could work. Because not only is it a recognized name, so you got some brand recognition there, right to start. But not only is it that, but the story's actually kind of cool. There's a Mission Impossible kind of storyline there that you could really do and do well with the right cast and everything. So personally, I'd be all for it. What about you, Clark? Would you be up for a Carmen Sandiego movie, or do you think it's a little far gone for that?
Nope, I am on board. I want a Carmen Sandiego movie. So it's so funny that we're talking about this. I swear to you, Scout's honor, I was driving to AMC Movie Talk this morning and I thought to myself, why was everybody so mad at Carmen Sandiego anyway? What was she, a terrorist? And then I Googled it and she was not a terrorist. She was a thief. And she had all her awesome thiefy friends who were totally characters in and of themselves. And obviously the woman that inspired an entire catalog of work from Rockapella. So this is a character that needs to be brought to the big screen. And, you know, personally, I actually don't mind Jennifer Lopez as a dramatic actress. I'm not so much on her as a comedic actress, but that could have been fine. The fact that she's not on it anymore is okay with me, but I would love to see a Carmen Sandiego movie in the vein of, like, Raiders of the Lost Ark, like a big action, like, you know, throwback adventure, like even the first Stephen Sommers Mummy movie that just takes place on the opposite side of the world, and it's just your globe trotting, because she was like not, you know, she was all over the place. Carmen Sandiego had frequent flyer miles. So I want to see that movie, and I think it could be huge. So yes, I want to see it.
What about you, Amy Rose?
Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Yes! I want it so bad. I want it so bad. It's so good. I didn't even think about that forever until you just brought that up. And I haven't actually followed the story very much. I heard way back when, but I was like, it's not going to happen. It's going to be like Warcraft. And I'm really, really hope it gets off the ground. What an amazing story. And there are not a lot of female characters like her. She is strong and takes liberties and does what she wants. And she's super intelligent. And it's just such a fun story. And I would love to see a film. And I think J-Lo's a fine, but she's really likable. She's hot as hell. And what was that movie that she was actually pretty clever in? At First Sight with George Clooney. Was that what it was called?
Yes.
Yes.
At First Sight. I thought she was really good in that, and there was some comedic timing that she kind of handled. So I think physically she kind of, it looks like what I would imagine, you know, that film version to look like as well. So I would be all for this. This would be awesome.
I got to admit, I have never liked Jennifer Lopez as an actress.
No.
Oddly enough, I've been a fan. Most people are reverse. Most people aren't fans of her music, but they like her as an actress. I'm kind of reverse. I am kind of a fan of her music, but I've never been a fan of her as an actress. I've just never been able to get into her personally, but I know a lot of people who really are. And I got to admit, even though I'm not a fan, I could see her as Carmen Sandiego. I'd be down for that. I could buy that.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was, yeah, I like her.
All right. Let's move on to the second to last question here. We got Jared Heath who writes, "Hey guys, love the show. So glad I found this on YouTube months ago and I haven't missed an episode yet. My question is, with Neil Blomkamp's Elysium finally releasing soon, do you think Neil might finally get to a District 9 sequel? What are your thoughts on District 9 sequel, or do you think they should not even try to top the original? Amy Rose, should they do a District 9 sequel?
I really hope so. I mean, from our friends at Sony, we've kind of heard that Elysium has a similar vibe to it. But it's more over dramatized and like the elite, 1% and all of that. But talk about a great cast as well. Jodie Foster, Matt Damon. I am so excited for Elysium. Everything I've seen about it just continues to build my excitement. And everyone I've known who's seen it so far says it's great. District 9 was such an amazing film that completely shocked me. I was like, oh, it's fun. I'm a big sci-fi fan. But it was such a fresh take on the genre. And Blomkamp is such an up-and-coming amazing director. And he has Chappie on the board, which should be really interesting as well. So I'm really excited to see, what he produces. And Sony's not stupid. When Elysium is a big success, which I really am confident it's going to be, hopeful, people have been asking for this ever since it came out. So I don't think it's very realistic to think that we could get a sequel in the next, couple of years because the demand is high. He's a hot property right now. And, why not? I would really like to see it. I hope they buckle up and make it happen.
What about you, Clark? Would you be down for District 9 2?
Big time, yes. And actually, I know I'm kind of contradicting myself because I was pro Prometheus too, but 9 times out of 10, or I guess 8 times out of 10, I am anti-sequel. A lot of times, I think these movies should just stand on their own. Like I don't need a Moon 2. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't need that. Just because the first one was great, let Duncan Jones go make more movies, right? Which he is doing. So the point I'm making is, with District 9, however, I felt like that was a movie where I was like, yeah, I want more. I want to follow Winkus's story. I want to follow what's happened to him now that he's transformed. I want to see more from this world. I want to see more from the aliens, for goodness sake.
Awesome.
I mean, I want more from this story. And yes, I'm very excited for Elysium also. But yeah, this is one time or a second time where I am very pro sequel. I want to see more from that.
Yeah, this is one I definitely want to see. The way they ended, the ending to District 9 was one of those rare endings where, yeah, they really did finish the movie. And yet it really was very open to a sequel. Like, because we see at the end, he's finished his transformation now. He's pure alien. And
So good.
But, he promised he would come back and help fix him. I want to see where things go from there. And it is an imaginative world. But on the flip side, there is the other argument that, you know what? Elysium is just Neil Blomkamp's second movie. Let him go do something else.
Yeah.
Let him do a couple of other things, then maybe come back and revisit the world of District 9. And I would understand that argument too. All I'm saying is, if you told me tomorrow that they were shooting District 9 too, I'd be pretty damn excited.
Woo!
Yeah.
Let's do it from the aliens' perspective. How bad? Come on.
All right, let's get to our last question today. And our last question comes from Joseph Cabrera, who writes, here's my question. I think Gerard Butler is the most overrated actor in Hollywood. He became a huge star in 300, and then came horrible movies. The Bounty Hunter, Gamer, The Ugly Truth, Playing for Keeps, Chasing Mavericks. Yes, I know Olympus Has Fallen has been successful, but the movie has an all-star cast. I just don't think he is a leading man in Hollywood. What do you guys think? Has the times changed so much that just one movie, aka 300, can make a leading man in Hollywood? Amy Rose, what is your official position on one Gerard Butler?
I think he's okay. I definitely think that rom-coms they're definitely not the path he should be doing. I thought he was good in 300. I mean, he's a solid actor. He's easy on the eyes. I think he's fine. He's never really given me the chills or had that wow factor or that it factor for me. So I'm kind of indifferent to it. I know our own Campia loved The Ugly Truth. But I definitely, I don't really think he's a leading man. And I actually didn't see Chasing Mavericks, but I didn't hear it was bad. I surfed myself, so I kind of like that whole mentality. And I heard that it wasn't that bad, and that was visually cool. So I don't really have a judgment on that film. But as a leading star, I think that his agent should be spoken to a little bit. I don't think he's been making the right decisions. I think he should get back to action, to real action, because he's believable, he's got the build, and yeah, I definitely think that was the path, and he's kind of strayed away from it. I haven't given up on him, but I'm kind of indifferent. I don't care that much about him, to be honest.
What about you, Clark? Where are you on the old Gerard Butler?
Okay, well, here's the thing with Gerard Butler for me. So, with Gerard Butler, I think that he is a decent actor, and I agree he is not hard to look at, and I like his little accent. Okay, that's great. But here's the thing with Gerard Butler. I got to give him props for one thing. After 300 was a smash success, he could have made all the 300s he wanted, and he didn't. He kind of went the rom-com route, or like a couple, like different kinds of things here and there. Rom-com, mostly rom-com. And, so hey, good for you trying to switch it up a bit. I think there is potential for Gerard Butler to have his own McConaissance. If you'll remember, Matthew McConaughey was awesome in a handful of movies, A Time to Kill. I was a huge champion of McConaughey, and people are always like, you're crazy. And I'm like, go watch A Time to Kill. Go watch Frailty. Go
Lincoln Lawyer.
Well, yeah, but that's later. That's part of the McConaissance. But before the McConaissance, it was all the goofy stuff. Now, I do like 10 Things I Hate About You, or not 10 Things I Hate About You, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. But, yes.
No.
That is a fun movie.
It is a fun
rom-com.
movie.
Okay, well, here's the point. Back to Gerard Butler. Gerard Butler, I think, could have his own sance the Butler sans, if he sort of starts to maybe downsize things a bit, maybe instead of being the leading man is just super awesome in a supporting role someplace, and then start taking roles that challenge him a little bit. I think there's more to Gerard Butler than just the goofy guy and the bounty hunter.
I'm going to tell you, I am unapologetically a big Gerard Butler fan. As a matter of fact, you mentioned a number of things, and yes, I do want to address this. The Ugly Truth was freaking awesome. That was a great movie. I know a lot of people don't like that one. I watched it again last week, and I laughed my ass off. I find that movie so funny. But you did list a lot of very, very bad movies that he's in, no doubt. There are some really bad films that he's in, no question about it. But you're leaving off something like, let's forget, before 300, he was the Phantom of the Opera. And
he was terrible, John.
I thought he was very good in that. There was also, about 2 years ago, there was another little film out called Machine Gun Preacher that was a limited release film. And while I did not like the movie myself, his performance in it was stunning. His performance in that film was really, really quite good. And
Rock and Rolla.
What's that?
Rock and Rolla. That's a good movie.
Yeah, Rock and Rolla, and his performance in that is pretty damn good too. And you have to be careful. I tell people this all the time. Just because, a lot of people say, no, John, I'd say Chris Tucker can't act. He's a waste of space. People say, well, John, you're forgetting about The Fifth Element, or The Sixth Element. Which was it? Whatever.
Fifth.
You're forgetting about Fifth Element. It's like, no. I'm not forgetting about Fifth Element. That was a good movie. But just because the dude is in a good movie doesn't mean he's good in it. But it works in reverse. Just because somebody's in a bad movie doesn't mean they're a bad actor. It just means it's a terrible movie. There's nothing you can do about it except act the best that you can, and you're left with what you have. I think Gerard Butler's got a lot of charm, a lot of wit, a lot of charisma. He's, obviously not The Rock when it comes to that sort of stuff.
Who is?
Yeah,
but
who is?
But I think Amy Rose is completely right on this. I think this is a case of somebody who has just kind of tanked their own career by making these horrible decisions in these terrible, terrible movies that they have chosen to be in, which I think is unfortunate because I do believe in a Butler sans. I think a Butler sans would be really, really cool. I am all for the Butler sans, so sign me up for that. All right, folks, listen, we have gone a little bit over time. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, one of the ways you can support us on the show, if you enjoyed it, and we hope that you did, is just go on down and click that thumbs up button. Give us a thumbs up. That'll just let us know that you enjoy what we're doing here. And while you're at it, if you think about it, click the subscribe button. Become a subscriber to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It'll keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news, and of course our daily AMC Movie Talk Show and this AMC Mailbag Show, which we do a couple times a week. So I want to thank, first of all, the lovely Miss Amy Rose Eisenbach. Thank you so much, Amy Rose.
Thank you.
And, of course, for the first time doing the show with us, Clark Wolf. Clark, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me,
Yay!
John. Yay!
And thank you most of all, of course, to you guys. Listen, like AMC Movie Talk, the most important part of the show is certainly not what we have to say. It's what you have to say. Make sure you jump on down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts on any or all the questions that we've addressed here today. And don't forget, send in your questions. You can email us at amcmovietalk@gmail.com, and your question could get answered on AMC Movie Talk or here on AMC Mailbag. Keep an eye open for that. So until next time, my name is John Cape for AMC Movie News. Bye-bye.